Hey guys, what's going on? Your host, Steve with Geek Boulevard. I recently got to check out Kung Fu Panda 4. Now, I'm a little biased. I love the original trilogy. I think the characters are great. I think the animation is fantastic. It's probably one of my favorite trilogies from DreamWorks next to the How to Train Your Dragon series. After 8 years, we finally have a fourth film in this franchise, and the question that I'm here to answer for you is, was the wait worth it? Let's get into what I liked about this movie. It's no surprise that Jack Black will always have a good time playing such a lovable character like Po, and I enjoyed seeing him again, bringing the character back to the big screen after so long. There's few actors out there that when you look at them, you see the character. Like, for example, Robert Downey Jr., when you look at him, you see Tony Stark, you see Iron Man. You know, with Jack Black, it can go either of two ways. People can either see him as Bowser or see him as Po. And quite frankly, since he's been Po a lot longer than he's been Bowser, I think Po is probably, the top choice for most people. It's just always fun to see Jack Black just have so much fun with this character. Like the previous films, the animation is fantastic, and I personally really enjoyed the final act of the film, where Po was taking on the film's villain, the Chameleon, voiced by Viola Davis, who can literally take the shape of anyone, even all of Po's greatest villains that he's put away. And I liked how the animation played with that notion a little bit. Now, as for my negatives, I have a little more to say there. The fact that this film took 8 years to make after Kung Fu Panda 3, it definitely seems it took that long because the studio was still trying to ask themselves, do we really need to make this? Fourth movies in a franchise almost never do well and are most of the time just never necessary. Expendables 4, Kingdom of the Crystal Skull, which to this day people will completely ignore and pretend that there is no fourth film in the Indiana Jones series, or a fifth film for that matter. It stops at The Last Crusade. The list goes on. Unfortunately, in my opinion, this film does fall into that category. The story on display just didn't grab me as much. Po is enjoying his time as the Dragon Warrior, but he has hit that point in his life where, according to Master Shifu, he needs to consider finding a successor so that he can elevate to a spiritual leader of sorts. While all of this is happening, he needs to contend with the forces of the Chameleon throughout. The successor appears in the form of a fox thief by the name of Zen, voiced by Awkwafina, who does a decent job in the role, but she just felt kind of shoehorned into this story as a kind of a cheap way to pass on the torch to a younger character, and I guess to try to bring in a younger audience. Also, the Furious Five are nowhere to be found in this story until after the credits roll, which was a huge disappointment. I'm sure it was most likely to do with having to pay to bring these actors back for the characters, as the budget for this film was significantly less than the third film, so I guess sacrifices had to be made somewhere. Now, the Chameleon is by far the weakest villain of the franchise, as she doesn't have a lot of motive for her means of power and domination, other than she was picked on for being small despite wanting to learn Kung Fu. You don't get a lot of her backstory like you did with the other previous villains in the original trilogy. I think given her power set, it would have been quite interesting to see into her character a bit more, and that was a bit of a letdown for me. And the jokes here don't land at all. I personally feel this installment is a lot more catered towards a younger audience, as most of the jokes are mainly just fart jokes and dad jokes. I get that this is a kid's film, but adults like myself really loved the trilogy, and I barely let out a chuckle in this. Overall, I have to give Kung Fu Panda 4 a score of 2 out of 5. Jack Black's performance is always great, and the animation that DreamWorks was able to pull off on a much smaller budget is nothing to scoff at. But the very weak story, boring villain, and bad jokes left me feeling disappointed. They do plan to make more sequels, as this one is supposed to kickstart a new trilogy, but I think I'm good. Now, if you take your kids to this film, will they enjoy themselves? Yeah, absolutely. But if you bring your kids to this film with the notion that you love the original trilogy as well, hoping to get the same quality that you got there, you're gonna be left disappointed. With all that down, I want to know what you guys thought of Kung Fu Panda 4. Where would you rank it? What's your favorite moment in the original trilogy that you thought was cool or just made you laugh? Let me know your thoughts down in the comments below. Don't forget, if you liked this video, give it a thumbs up. It would really help out the channel. And while you're at it, sub to the channel. Don't be afraid to hit that button down at the bottom of this video so you can always be notified when I drop my next review. Thanks for watching, guys, and until next time, keep it classy and keep it geeky.
Stand back. I'm gonna kick my butt.
Seven Nation Army couldn't hold me back.
Hey.